let's talk about one of the biggest frustrations organizations face. You deliver training, people seem engaged, they pass the assessment, and then nothing changes. Does that sound familiar? Here's the issue. Most learning solutions are designed for knowledge, not for behavior or performance. We assume that if people understand something, they'll apply it. But that's not how people work. And it's definitely not how the brain works. Training and change initiatives don't usually fail because people are uninterested or resistant. They fail because they're misaligned with how humans actually learn, change, and make decisions. If we want behavior to change, we have to understand something fundamental. Behavior change is not a learning problem. It's a habit problem. And habits are shaped by how the brain is wired. There are really three sciences at play here: cognitive science, how we process information; neuroscience, how the brain rewires itself and reacts emotionally; and behavioral science, why people don't follow through even though when they know what to do. Let's go one layer deep on each of these. So here's the most important principle. The brain doesn't erase old behaviors. It replaces them. So you probably have heard this idea of unlearning. See, the concept of erasing old behaviors is what people like to think is unlearning, but the concept of replacing them is what's called neuroplasticity. And that's the brain's ability to form and reorganize connections through repeated experience. So the brain actually can't truly unlearn an old habit. It has to build a new neural pathway strong enough to compete with the old one. So you're not deleting an old habit, you're competing with it. And unless the new behavior is stronger, easier, or more rewarding, people will always default back to what they've always done. Think about it. A new customer service script. If people hear it once in training, they're going to go right back to their old wording. A safety protocol, a one-time course won't stop shortcuts. Leadership behaviors, telling managers to coach more, rarely works because behavior doesn't change through exposure. It changes through repetition and reinforcement. New neural pathways only strengthen with consistent practice, just like a muscle. So here's the formula. Practice plus reinforcement leads to habit. Without practice, people don't build capability. Without reinforcement, they don't sustain it. And without both, behavior change doesn't stand a chance. There's also an emotional layer here. Emotionally engaging moments during learning activate the amygdala, which strengthens memory. People may forget what you said, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. And that's not just a saying, it's neuroscience. Okay, two more important pieces of brain science worth knowing. First, dopamine. It's released when we experience something rewarding, and it reinforces whatever pathway produced it. That's why recognizing progress and celebrating small wins isn't just a nice to do, it's biologically reinforcing the exact behavior you want to stick. Second, mirror neurons. Humans are social learners by design. When we watch a peer confidently use a new skill or a leader model a new behavior, our brains simulate that same action internally. That's why social modeling, leadership visibly doing the new thing, is one of the most underused tools in learning design. Now, let's talk about motivation or drive. Behavioral science shows us something interesting. People are more motivated to avoid loss than to gain something new. It's called loss aversion. So your learners may be more motivated to avoid losing credibility, letting their team down, making mistakes, missing a promotion, than they are by rewards or incentives. If we ignore that, we design solutions that don't connect. And there's something else that's working against you. The brain's whole reason of existing is to keep us safe. That means it prefers routine, familiarity, and predictability. So when you introduce something new, you're asking people to step outside their comfort zone. And that feels risky, even if the new behavior is better. There's something called the intention-action gap, the space between wanting to do something and actually doing it. See, it's rarely about willpower. It's usually about friction, small barriers in the environment that make the new behavior just inconvenient enough to skip. Then, of course, there's the social factor. People don't just do what they're told. They do what they see others doing. If their peers stick to the old way, they will too. If leaders don't model the behavior, it won't stick. Behavior is social, and we have to design for that. This is where everything connects. Even if someone understands the new behavior and wants to do it, they'll struggle if the environment doesn't support it. No tools, no time, no reinforcement, no accountability. That's why level 3 behavior is where everything either works or breaks. So what do we do with all of this? We design differently. Before training, we engage leaders to frame the why and pre-assess confidence and readiness. During training, we connect content to work emotionally, build in repetition and reflection, and create commitments and peer discussion. After training, provide job aids and nudges, reduce friction, train managers to coach and reinforce, and anchor the new behavior to something people already do, what James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, calls habit stacking. This turns training from an event into a system for behavior change. So here's your reflection. Think of one behavior you want people to adopt. Not what they should know, what they should do. Ask yourself, what's one reinforcement strategy that would help that behavior stick? And what's one piece of friction you could remove to make it easier? That's where real change begins. Knowledge alone doesn't change performance. Behavior change requires practice, reinforcement, motivation, and a supportive environment. And when we design with that in mind, we stop delivering training and start creating transformation. But even when behavior starts to change, there is still a critical gap. How do we make sure what happens in training actually shows up on the job consistently? In the next episode, we're going to look at transfer and why it's the make or break moment